Hello. Many of the region's hospitals said today they were simply too busy to meet the government's targets on waiting lists. And they say things are unlikely to get any better.
They were responding to research by BBC News. It shows how each trust is performing on waiting times for patients in A&E, routine operations and cancer treatment. These are the best performing, but even the Princess Alexandra in Harlow is only hitting its target 66% of the time. And if you live in Essex, the picture is not good. Southend is near the foot of the table, and Basildon and Colchester are right at the very bottom, having failed to hit a single target for waiting times during the year. Let's get the full details now from our health reporter, Simon Dedman.
Stuart, the three targets the BBC NHS tracker is looking at is operation waiting times, the gap in time between a GP referring a patient to actually getting cancer treatment, and A&E performance. And it's at Basildon's A&E where I spent today. For 12 months, Basildon Hospital has not met patient treatment targets. It is not alone. Hospitals across the East have found it harder to maintain them over the past 4 years.
Do you want a blanket?
95% of patients, like Charlie Malumba, should be seen within 4 hours. That's a key hospital performance indicator. Historically, the warmer summer months make this target achievable. But pressures and patient demand have become less seasonal, and 7 hospitals in the East failed to achieve it at all last year.
Obviously people dread going into winter because we know it's going to be very high pressure on our staff. We know we're going to have lots of patients coming through the department, lots of people are going to be being admitted due to being generally unwell, the flu season starting. However, my staff come in every day with a smile on their face and still try to work each day as they come in and meet that challenge.
That challenge is now daily.
And she's comfortable, painkiller control, everything is fine. Excellent.
Figures seen by Look East show most hospitals were nearly full for the whole summer. Norfolk's Queen Elizabeth and James Paget hospitals had to find escalation beds.
People are getting older and they're living longer, and that's a factor. The other factor is they're sicker. There are more ambulances because this year alone, we've almost nearly doubled the number of ambulances that we're receiving through the door.
Meeting the targets that nearly all cancer patients should begin treatment within 9 weeks, operations within 18 weeks and A&E performance is something the medical director believes will be hard to achieve over the next few months.
We are very conscious and aware that in the winter months we will come under increased pressure in terms of A&E attendances and its impact on our inpatient admissions. Having said that, we have put in a lot of focused attention into our winter planning. The aim of that plan is very much to ensure that we maintain the flow of the patients in the hospital.
Well, the A&E performance target is a key indicator for how hospitals are coping. And to put it in a bit of context, out of the 5 acute hospitals in Essex, only Southend has met it in the past 12 months. And that was just for 1 month. A growing population that is getting older with curable illnesses is positive in many ways. But for NHS hospitals, it's creating a pressure that's hard to cure.
Well, let's talk to Simon and to our political correspondent, Andrew Sinclair, who's at Westminster. Simon, we'll start with you. How are the hospitals going to cope this winter?
Well, I think it's going to be very difficult for hospitals to ensure that patients are treated properly, which is why these targets are there in the next few months. And I think most hospital managers would agree with that and admit that. I think the real cure for hospitals is actually dealing with the social care crisis. Delayed discharges. These are patients who did come into hospital sick, they've been treated, but medically no longer need to be there. And the NHS is working to try and actually deal with this blockage in beds. That means when people turn up for operations through the main door or through A&E, they can actually get a bed. And they're trying to get rid of 2,000 of these delayed discharges beds nationally before the real wind of winter arrives.
And if the targets are too tough very quickly, should they be changed?
Well, the A&E target a decade ago was that patients should be treated 98% of the time within 4 hours. They've actually changed that at the beginning of this decade. So I think that's really down to the government to decide.
Right, let's move on to Andrew Sinclair. I hear the Princess Alexandra Hospital was mentioned in Parliament today.
Yeah, there's been quite a campaign for a brand new hospital for Harlow. Today that campaign made it into Parliament. The local MP Robert Halfon calling a special debate on the subject. He told MPs that the Princess Alexandra is not fit for purpose to provide healthcare in the 21st century. He said much of the 50-year-old building's infrastructure was permanently crumbling and in decline. Sewage and rainwater regularly flows into the operating theatres, he said. Now, a brand new hospital would cost about £500 million. No promises today from the Health Minister, but he did say it was clear to him that a new hospital for Harlow was a big priority for the region.
And discussion too about the performance of the ambulance service.
Yes, the boss of the East of England Ambulance Trust was down here briefing MPs today. The good news is that response times are up, staff morale is up, recruitment is up. The bad news is that the time it takes to transfer patients from ambulance into hospital, there are still very big delays. In fact, the number of ambulances who were waiting for more than an hour to transfer patients into hospital has increased by 238% in the last 2 years.
Andrew, thank you very much, and you, Simon. And if you want to find out how your local hospital service is doing on waiting times for cancer, A&E and planned operations, go to the BBC's NHS Tracker at bbc.co.uk/NHS Tracker.